What is up? What is up, everybody? I made it. I was starting to wonder. If y'all get to wondering why I'm talking funny, and that's what made me almost not do it. Don't ask me how, but I bit the shit out of the side of my tongue, and I got a big old hole in it, and it's kind of sore. So probably, I don't know. I might not be talking quite as much as I normally do, but we'll make it through all right. And hey, Miss Susan, I see you in the chat there. You said you was being annoying. And annoy the hell out of them. That doesn't annoy me at all. I'm really tickled for you. So, absolutely. And look who else we got in here. We got Mermaid. Let's see, AC in there in the chat. Maybe we'll get a few more to pile in there here in a few minutes. But you know what? If not, I'm tickled with just that. I'm glad to see y'all show up. Y'all wake up, nosy. Gotta love seeing the fam in the chat. So what I got here tonight is going to be what I'm guessing is probably going to be the first in a series of shows I'm going to be doing on this particular subject, because this subject is it's a really big subject right now. It's really more and more people are talking about it. More and more people have an opinion about it, and I feel like this is going to be a really big issue come midterms, and maybe if it's not as big a deal as I think come midterms, for sure 2028 when we have the general. This whole Philly question, I said that last night, and I'm just going to say it again, remind everybody, this is something that you couldn't ask questions about, something you couldn't even think about it. Thank God things have changed, and more people are starting to realize the issues that we have when it comes to that particular little place over there in the Middle East. And I tell you what, it's a little long for tonight because I am going to make this kind of quick, or I'm going to attempt to. But I have a really good documentary on this subject that we'll probably check out tomorrow night. It's really good information, really interesting. And I tell you what, I don't have some fancy show all structured and layered and perfect, but I do have a bunch of clips all pertaining. And so this tonight, I'm just going to mainly keep it towards, I'm going to keep it towards the whole AIPAC question or AIPAC issue. And we might sprinkle a little Zionism in there too. But, you know, AIPAC has got to be, it's the most influential non-American. And actually, let me clarify, all the Zio politicians especially say, oh, no, it's not a foreign lobbyist group. They're Americans. It's an American lobbyist group. Lobbying on behalf of a foreign country, I will say, yes, I understand that the people in AIPAC are American citizens. And if I had to bet my life on it, I would probably say, they're all dual citizens, just a guess. And you know what? Dual citizenship, for myself, I would never do it. I see no need to, and I don't think I'd ever feel right doing it, just because, well, I'm an American, as far back as I know, American, and I just, with the dual citizenship, and you know, for the average citizen, you know, if my next door neighbor or somebody else I knew was a dual citizen, okay, that's fine. I can deal with that. Hey, Angela, what's up? You're not too late. I hadn't even got into it yet. But, you know, that's one thing. I don't really have that big of an issue with that. when it comes to politicians, when it comes to people that are making laws for us, I say absolutely no dual citizens. And I don't care what country it is, but now, at the end of the day, we all know what the dual citizens, we know what other country they share citizenship with. You know, I'm not going to say there might be somebody else that's got a Canadian dual citizenship, but most of the dual citizens, are America and Philly. So, but when you're in a position of power like that, when you're in a position where you're writing laws for our country, to me, there should be no question. There should be no question of where your allegiance, where your loyalty lies. And I just feel like people in power, when you have that, there's no other choice but to question that. And I just don't like feeling like I need to do that. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of Zionists that are not dual citizens, and they're just as bad. So just because you don't have a dual citizenship doesn't mean you're good to go. There's some other things that, I guess make a good and decent politician. But anyway, I'll stop rambling here. Actually, I'll probably ramble just a few more minutes while I get this pulled up, because you know it, I don't have it pulled up yet. It was last minute. I swear I was crying. My side of my tongue was hurting and bleeding. I know you got probably too much TMI, too much information, but anyway, I was like, am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? Finally, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I can do it. So, all that to say, I didn't get to get all this stuff loaded in here like I would have liked. All right, let me see. Just refresh this here. Okay, and which playlist am I looking at? There we go. Show material. All right, guys, we are getting there. Okay. Yes, and speaking of the documentaries, I was telling you about that good documentary that we might do tomorrow night. There's also another documentary that I found, and they're both about an hour long, so that would definitely be two different shows. But I've got actually two on this subject right now that I've got in mind. So we'll see what kind of order and when exactly we get those watched, but they are really, really good. All right, let's before we get into the AIPAC thing, let's see what do people talk about when they call somebody a Zionist. You know, the answer you get from most Zionists, especially, but the answer that you generally get from anybody that is pro-Philly is a Zionist is just somebody that believes that Israel has a right to exist, and they always leave it at that. But there's way more to it than that. Talk about nuance, no, yeah. So part of that is they don't just believe that they have the right to exist. They believe that they have the biblical right to that very piece of ground, including Gaza and West Bank, all that out there. They feel like they have the God-given biblical right to that land in particular and have a right to exist on it. Now, that may not be a perfect definition, but I can promise you if you talk to any real Zionist, you'll understand that after talking with them for a few minutes. They may not say it exactly like that, but that is the gist of what it is. So, anyway, all right, let's see this. Let's see what these people have to say about it. Oops. Yeah, this is a good one. This has got actual Jewish people and Israeli people in it, which to me is the best to opine on it. Anybody else can be called racist, anti-Semite, all those terms they like to throw out. But at the end of the day, it's hard to call a Jew hater. I mean, hey, trust me, they do it. They do it. But they have a little bit easier time on talking on this subject, and they've got a little bit more authority, I feel like, to speak on it, on the issue. So, yeah, you got Max Blumenthal, and you got several Israeli and Jewish people in there. Just milk, and in the morning, a what? Okay. I don't know what y'all are talking about right now. All right, let's see here. Let's get this party started. And we just about there. Okay, I want to full screen that thing so y'all can make sure and see really, really good. Can't be missing nothing. Okay, here we go. All right, fire in the hole, guys. Sorry about the wait. Hold, please.
Zionism.
Oh, and thank you for the comment a minute ago, Miss Susan, about me being my laid-back ways. We teabag for tongue bites. Yep, there you go. All right, guys, here we go. Let me get this going.
Political movement, an ideology, or an ethno-nationalist vision based on supremacy. To understand it, we go back to 1897, the birth of Zionism. Before Israel existed, a group of European Jews gathered to develop a vision that would change history.
Zionism is a movement that started around 150 years ago. It's just really recently, relatively recently. And it's a movement of people who were totally estranged from the Jewish religion. They weren't practicing the religion as a whole.
The founder of Zionists, his name was Theodor Herzl from Vienna, Austria. He don't believe in God. He don't believe in nothing. The Judaism is completely...
So there you go. That's the first point I want to bring to everybody's attention. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in nothing. And it has been my experience that that's most definitely the case. Look, anybody that could do to Gaza what's been done to Gaza can't believe in a God. That's the way I feel about it anyway. How could you believe in God, feel like there is a God out there that one day is going to judge you for, the way you treated people on this earth and carry out all the things that have been carried out there? And you know what? Let me take that back. A lot of them probably don't believe in God, but actually this whole thing has sort of morphed into a holy war. So I could be wrong. They may feel like that's what God wants them to do, which is absurd. Because, I know we've all been hearing more and more about the third temple. They got the red heifers and all that stuff. They're going to make Jesus come back.
Religious movement have nothing to do with any nationality, with any materialistic thing.
Zionism was different. It was a political and nationalist movement that used historical Jewish narratives and biblical mythologies, as well as anti-Semitism, to justify colonization and create a Jewish state in Palestine at any cost.
They realized in order to get...
At any cost. And you notice it says in Palestine. So far that cost has been unbelievable. You think about going by their numbers, you think about just how many have lost their lives since 2023. Right there in that little strip.
A lot of massive support from the world, evangelistic Christians, Jews who don't know the Torah, don't know their laws, who don't practice the laws. So they knew they'll go to Palestine and they'll be able to tell everybody, oh, this is the God-given land to the Jewish people. They automatically started breaching and transgressing the laws of the Torah, not to kill and not to steal, not to oppress a people.
What about that? The laws in the Torah, not to kill, not to steal, basically be good people. Treat everybody like they're people and not like they're animals. They missed that, which seems like the Talmud has got a whole lot different, set of rules and stuff than the Torah. So anyway, I don't know. Thought about reading it sometime, but I'm afraid it's going to make me sick to read it.
Because they wanted to make their national home in a land that was inhabited
Nosy Google, what's up? Good to see you there.
by the Palestinian people.
From the start, Zionism necessitated killing, stealing, and oppressing, actions that go against core Jewish teachings.
Y'all hear that? What it necessitated, all the killing and stealing and all that. And you have, well, Ted Cruz, for example. I'm a Zionist. I'm a proud Zionist. Joe Biden. You don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. I'm a Zionist. How many of our politicians do you hear say that? Oh, I'm a Zionist. There's only two options. Either they're telling you that they're bloodthirsty, sorry some bitch, or they're just that stupid. And honestly, it could go either way for me. Most of them is probably both.
Declared themselves a Jewish state, and if anybody stood up against them, they said, because you hate the Jews.
Yes, mermaid, that goes all the way back to the Kabbalah. A lot of people don't realize that, but when you start talking about all these mystical old Eastern religions, a lot of that's exactly, well, if you take it back far enough, that's exactly where most all of those occultic, mystical, like I said, Eastern religions came from. And don't ever let anybody lie to you about that. Yes, back in the day especially, they always required bloodshed. I'm pretty sure they do still. Little different methods now. Now you can drop a bomb and take out thousands of people in one whack, but anyway, you can't help but feel like that's a ritual going on over there in Gaza right now.
And you're an anti-Semite.
When the ideology was put into action beginning in the late 19th century, Palestinians were killed and violently displaced, and Jewish settlers seized their land and replaced them. There was no coexistence, only ethnic cleansing and control.
The Zionist movement and Israeli government being nothing but a settler colonial imperialist system that is trying to replace us with Jewish immigrants from outside, to kick us out of our country, to conduct ethnic cleansing.
In Zionism, total victory means no Palestinians and no resistance to colonization, land theft, Jewish supremacy, and total cultural erasure.
What is total victory? In the framework of Zionism, total victory is ethnic cleansing. It's the completion of the genocidal process that began in 1948, which can deliver them an ethno-religiously pure state free from these indigenous contaminants.
It starts early in classrooms. History.
Indigenous contaminants. And that came from a Jewish fellow there, Max Blumenthal. He's as Jewish as they come.
Rewritten. Symbols saluted. Indoctrination. Over-education.
And then when you get to high school, you start literally learning how to be a soldier already with the age of 16. Once you finish high school, you're supposed to quite immediately, as soon as possible, with 18, go to the army. It's obligatory. I don't even remember using the words Palestinians in school. Arabs was there, and they're always some kind of in a context of
Hurry back, Miss Susan.
being our enemies, where I would say that the word closely to Palestinians, we have the word, so in the Bible it says Plishtim. So these were also our enemies. And then I think the connection that
The Philistines.
Would make as a kid, when I started hearing the word Palestinians, I connected it, the connotation was to these Plishtim from the Bible who were our enemies. So you learn specifically about the heritage of Judaism, but it's all...
In other words, they are taught from the time they are born over there that everybody on the other side of that wall are subhuman, not humans at all, and that they must be exterminated no matter what. And so when our politicians brag about being Zionists, just know what they mean when they say that. And just know what they're backing, what they're standing behind and pledging allegiance to. It is not anything good, pure, holy, or anything like that. I can assure you.
Zionism, actually. That's another thing as an adult that I...
That's right, Miss Susan. Hey, RKM, what's up? What's up? Good to see you in the chat.
I had to relearn Judaism when I came out of Israel.
Today in Palestine's Gaza, the Zionist ideology is manifesting its most natural state, one of extreme, lawless brutality.
They are, and if you'll notice, anytime you hear Iran or even some of the other Arab states, but especially Iran, we've been hearing more lately out of them, obviously, than we normally do. But what do they always refer to them? Do they ever refer to them as the Jews? Do they ever refer to them as the Israelis? Do they ever refer to them as Israel? No. Anytime they refer to them, they say the Zionist regime. And there's a reason for that. It's not that they don't know what they're, what they're called or what they call themselves. They don't. It's not that they're ignorant of the fact that they're Israelis or that that's what they're known as. No, that is a descriptor. When they say that, they are saying that for a reason, that these people are Zionist. Which, well, they're explaining right now what that means.
Palestinians are being murdered, starved, and stripped of every basic right.
And yes, Angela, very, very arrogant. God's chosen people. And everybody else, us goy, are put here to serve them. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. And Nosy Google, you're 110% right. That is absolutely true. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist, but you also don't have to be, you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. And not all Jews are Zionists, for sure. Matter of fact, there's a lot of them. There's some pretty big movements in the U.S. now of Jewish people that are anti-Zionism. And if you ask them why, you get the same answer every time. Most of them bring up this whole conflict in Gaza that's been going on since 23.
There is a genocide. They have killed 18,000 children. They have declared a full closure. Over the closure, no food, no water, no electricity, no fuel, with a determination to punish the Palestinian people, to target the Palestinian people. This might lead to creating the conditions of...
And punish them for what? They were there first. It's not like they started dragging all the Jewish people over there so they could fight, so they could fight with them and kill them. No, not at all. So again, punish them for what? For being alive.
Life that would be physical and biological destruction for Palestinians.
On each gurney was...
Exactly, Miss Susan. And somebody's going to win and somebody's going to come in second and third. That's just the way it is. So as long as we put ourselves first, us being the greatest country in the world in history ever, generally I would say that we're gonna come in first. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with some of these other countries coming in second, because when we put them first, like we have been lately, that we are slowly working ourselves down the ranking list, and I don't like that. We need to be first. We need to always be first. You've heard the quote many times, I'm sure. I know I have, talking about if America falls, guess what? The world falls. So yeah, like you said, and it's a dog-eat-dog world. Every country needs to put their people first. Let the chips fall where they may.
There's 3 to 5 kids.
Hey, Rick, nice to see you in the chat. Yes, I like to see more and more people piling in. Thank you for coming out.
Almost exclusively kids. 90% of our new admissions were kids. And there'd be 15, 20 kids coming in at the end of every bombing. A third were dead by the time they got to us.
I'm sorry.
A third would die in front of us. And a third we'd take to the operating room. And most of them would die. No kid gets shot twice by mistake by a sniper. It doesn't happen by mistake. They were deliberately targeted. And that's not beyond a war crime, that's targeted assassinations. And it helps me formulate my opinion of what's really occurring in Gaza.
How is this genocidal system flourishing? Billions in US aid, year after year.
I think
You know, and that's a good point, Miss Susan. And I'm the same way. And that's one thing about America. We've always been a real generous people. We've always wanted to help others when we can. But the thing about it is, if we don't start putting ourselves first again and worrying about us and us only right now, we're not going to, here soon, we're not going to, and we're almost there now, we're not going to be in a position where we can help others in times of need. We're going to keep on, and I mean, we're going to get to the point where not only can we not help others in need, but well, it's just going to all fall apart and go to hell. And trust me, it's falling apart and going to hell now. But I think that it is savable for sure. But got to make some changes, and that's why I tell you in these upcoming elections, you watch. It ain't going to matter which side of the aisle they're on. Guess what the first question's going to be? Do you take any money from AIPAC or other, or other affiliated organizations? Watch. That's fixing to be make a big difference in politics.
I think there's not only an effort within the military and our government institutions, but it's an effort by the media.
That's right, Nosy. It is a man-made mess, and it's going to take God to fix it back. So, yep, there you go, divine intervention. See, great minds think alike.
By our executive.
Yep, Miss Susan, I'm with you. Or at least make them file under FARA, make them register as a foreign lobby, as they are. Even though there's Americans in it, it is lobbying for a foreign country, and you can't convince me otherwise.
Branch, legislative branch, even local state governments. I think every institution at this point has a level of corruption that keeps us censored to the truth and reality of what's actually happening. Fox News, CNN, even MSNBC, all of these news organizations have been censoring the truth.
Netanyahu hasn't been condemned by the American government. The American government hasn't sanctioned Netanyahu. In fact, they have doubled down.
One telephone call can stop all wars.
It's kind of hard to do when you've got a golden exploding pager sitting in a glass trophy case sitting right there on your desk. If you think that was just like a souvenir and not a reminder that, hey, we can reach out and touch you anytime we get good and ready, guarantee you that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what. You'll never convince me any different. That was a threat, straight up.
Israel cannot thrive without American taxpayer paid for bombs.
That is true. And that is also my point when I was talking about how Marco Rubio, the attack was imminent because once the Israelis, we knew the Israelis were going to attack them, and once they attacked them, they see us the same, so then they would attack us. No. You put your dog on a leash. Tell the Israelis you're not attacking. And if you do, you get no more boom booms from us and no more money, whatever. You can put a stop to that, and somebody will at some point. It'll happen.
That's all it would take.
Meanwhile, 1.25
Easy nosy.
million Palestinians face catastrophic hunger in Gaza. Aid remains blocked. Families are starving.
This dictatorship, they really have no limits, and if they could, they would starve all the Palestinians to death. And actually what they tried to do for 20 months. They destroyed all the aid system, they destroyed the water sewage system, they destroyed all the capacity of the Palestinian people to remain alive in that region.
Over in Palestine's occupied West Bank, apartheid defines daily life.
I don't have any right, in the contrary of the Israeli settlers who live close to my house illegally. They have more rights than me in my own neighborhood. They are under the Israeli civilian law with full civilian rights and political rights. And we, the Palestinians who are living, in our land, we don't have any rights. Basic rights we don't have. We don't have enough water, enough electricity.
But Palestinians refuse to leave. Staying is resisting. Resistance against a system that silences and suppresses an entire people.
Palestinians are staying and remaining because for us, it's about that remaining in the land is a kind of resistance. And we call it all the time, existence is resistance.
And all that's true, but at the end of the day, there's more to it than just that. And I feel like it has a lot to do with the control that Philly has on a lot of other countries. But, and part of it too is just the propaganda. And besides that, with all the years of fighting and all the shit that they have put them through, they are a lot of them, not all of them, but the ones, some of them are radicalized, and you almost can't blame them for being radicalized. And so my point in all that is to say, where are they going to go? They can't go anywhere. Nobody will take them. And I'm not saying we should. I think Israel should. They're the ones that's put them in this position and radicalized them to the point that they're the ones that are radicalized anyway.
We mobilize to stop the genocide. We mobilize to defeat Zionism, to defeat imperialism, to create a better society for every human being and every being on this planet is our task.
Yeah, exactly, Nosy. And not only that, just like with this Iran thing, we're talking about putting boots on the ground, possibly. And some news reporter asked Bibi about Israeli troops, and he flat out said, no, we're not putting Israeli boots on the ground. So that means they expect us to go put boots on the ground, our American soldiers, our sons and daughters and brothers, and you know what I mean? And at the same time, they're not willing to send their people in. And it's their fight. But it was the same way back in Afghanistan. They basically at the end of the day got us into all that mess, and there were no Israeli. They didn't fight that war with us. That was us. Well, of course, there was Canada and the UK, but no Israeli boots.
To do so.
The Zionists ignoring everything about the Jewish belief. In the Jewish belief, the state of Israel will come to an end 100%.
What about that? I thought that was pretty good, just for a short one. Like I said, I've got a full documentary that we're gonna watch. Probably watch it tomorrow night. It's really, really good. All right, let's see what else we got in here. I got all kinds of good stuff. Let's see.
The Jewish people's connection to the land has been at the center of their story for at least 3,000 years. For about 1,000 years, the Jewish people built a rich and thriving ancient civilization in the land. This lasted until the year 70 CE, when the Romans destroyed the Jewish temple in Jerusalem and exiled the Jews from their land. For the 2,000 years since then, Jews scattered across the globe have been carrying a collective connection to the land of Israel and a hope to return to it.
And then this is where we come in, you know, and where they get to build their third temple, and then of course they get to sacrifice the red heifers and all that. So this Iran war is supposed to bring Jesus back.
But let's go back to the beginning. According to the biblical record,
little do they know he already came. They're not looking for Jesus. I apologize. They're looking for the Messiah, and yeah, the Messiah came a long time ago.
The Jewish patriarchs and matriarchs made their home in the land of Israel. Their descendants, freed from Egyptian slavery, returned to the land several hundred
nosy
years later. Centuries of civil war among the Israelite tribes was followed by the United Kingdom of.
You know, I've been thinking the same, Mermaid. I think we're going to do that one evening. I don't even know what topic, but I was already thinking about that. I like watching Jubilee a lot of times.
David, and later Solomon, which centralized Jewish worship in Jerusalem with the establishment of the first temple. Of course, there are debates over the historical accuracy of.
If you'll remember, Tucker Carlson talked about this not long ago, how the IDF soldiers now, they are wearing patches on their uniforms with the quote-unquote third temple that's supposed to be built.
Many biblical stories. But what's grounded in historical fact is that the Jewish people living in Israel centuries before their exile told these foundational stories. Perhaps more importantly, these stories have been essential to Jewish identity for millennia. But back to history. After some 4 centuries of religious and national development under Jewish rule, the land was invaded by the Babylonians. The Jerusalem temple was destroyed and many Jews were exiled to Babylon. This was a period of great devastation for the ancient Jewish civilization. It was only after the Babylonian Empire fell to Persia, roughly 50 years later, that those exiles.
And who is Persia? Who's the modern day Persia? Iran. And that's why they hold such a grudge against them. Besides that, and you know, well, there's other reasons too. There's geopolitical reasons, you know, but yeah, they've always had a hard on for Iran.
Were eventually able to return in a remarkable and.
There you go, Mermaid. You do that. Recommend some. We'll do it. You tell me what you want to do. We'll do it.
Historic homecoming.
Yep. Just email me some. Yep. Absolutely.
Referred to as Shivat Zion, or the Return to Zion, this movement was initiated by the visionary leaders Ezra and Nehemiah. The Jewish community was revitalized and the temple was rebuilt. In many ways, this shorter period of exile and return can be seen as a precursor to the ideals and ambitions of Jewish self-determination that is now known as Zionism. Jewish civilization in ancient Israel then continued for another 400 years until the Romans destroyed the Second Temple and exiled the Jewish people yet again in the 1st and 2nd centuries. This time, though, the exile would last 2,000 years. Of course, this is a fairly simplistic, condensed summary of a much more extensive ancient history. But what it all means is that for 1,000 years, the land of Israel was the center of Jewish political and cultural life and day-to-day society. So there's an ancient connection between the Jewish people and the land of Israel. But if the land is so important, then how were Jews able to remain Jews for almost 2,000 years without living there?
Well, they kind of didn't. The ones that are there now, I mean, Bibi Netanyahu, they're almost all of them are Eastern European. Hence as to why they're not allowed to do DNA tests there. And you can Google that and you can look and see there's some special situations where you can have a DNA test done there, but you're not just gonna run down to Walgreens or somewhere and get you a 23andMe or something like that to take. Nope, not over there in Philly.
Well, despite their distance from it, the land has always remained the geographic center of the Jewish faith and religion.
Exactly, Nosy. That's exactly what they're doing. And trust me, I don't think they're going to like the outcome. I don't think it's going to give them the desired result, the result they're looking for. But it is not going to be I don't think it's going to be a good result. Period for anybody.
Just practice. annual cycle of the biblical Jewish festivals are based on the agricultural cycles and seasons in the land of Israel. The Maccabean revolts commemorated by Hanukkah also occurred in the land. The biblical and post-biblical stories still studied today were rooted in the land. The rabbis that taught and developed the very foundation of Jewish practice resided in Israel. Their teachings were compiled in the 63-volume legal anthology known as the Mishnah, the basis of Jewish religious law even today, also written in Israel. Even the
And also the Talmud.
longing for their return to the land developed into a foundational piece of Jewish religious, cultural, and national identity. The Jewish liturgy includes prayers 3 times a day for a collective return to and rebuilding of the land. Religious study includes ancient rites and rituals that would only apply once the Jews were to return and rebuild the temple. At the close of the Passover Seder, Jews call out next year in Jerusalem, and each summer,
Right, Nosy?
on Tisha B'Av, the Jewish people mourn the destruction of the temple and their exile from the land. At Jewish
Yes, I do remember that, Mermaid.
weddings, the couple breaks a glass in commemoration of Jerusalem's destruction and the hope that they return to it. From country to country, throughout the diaspora, Jews maintained a deep faith that they would one day be returned to their homeland. Some Jews even made efforts to actualize that dreaming by immigrating to Israel, known as making Aliyah. The long and dangerous journey was difficult and often life-threatening. Many who set out on Aliyah didn't make it. The 13th century Spanish rabbi Nachmanides was one of the first medieval rabbis who traveled to Jerusalem, hoping to renew Jewish life there. He found the city in desolation as a result of the Crusades, yet he succeeded in reestablishing a lasting Jewish communal life there and established a synagogue that is still in use today. After the expulsion of the Jews from Spain in 1492, a large number of Jews immigrated to the land. Among them were the families of future rabbis who would become pivotal in the development of Judaism. These included Rabbi Isaac Luria and Rabbi Joseph Caro, both of whom became the leaders of the mystical Kabbalistic movement that emerged in the city of...
There it was, Mermaid. You see that? That's where that Kabbalah comes from. Yep. All the mystical mystical religions, basically, I mean, it's satanic.
Tzfat in northern Israel. The influx of Jews from Spain and North Africa led to a golden age of Tzfat, during which the city was a global center for Jewish learning and trade.
So now, you kind of want to get both sides of the story, and this is a little bit different twist than the one we just watched. This is more from a Jewish or Israeli point of view. They are leaving out a lot of details. They act like they just got ran off and then they just started coming back. Not exactly how that went, but like I said, it's good to hear both sides of it.
Through the 15th and 16th centuries. In the late 18th century, some followers of the Hasidic movement also began to make Aliyah to the land of Israel. One of the earliest Hasidic masters, Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk, settled in Tzfat with 300 of his followers in 1777, the first of several Hasidic settlements. During roughly the same period, the Vilna Gaon, who many considered the greatest Jewish scholar in centuries, wrote that the long-awaited redemption would only come once the Jews took practical action on their own and settled the land of Israel. They could not rely on prayer and meditation alone while waiting for a messianic age. So in the early 19th century, more than 500 disciples of the Vilna Gaon made the difficult and dangerous journey to Israel, settling in Jerusalem, where they revived ancient rituals and customs and established schools. Later, in the mid-19th century, Rabbi Yehuda Alkalai and later Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch Kalischer also stressed that redemption would only come as a result of practical steps. They called for resettling of the land as a method of Jewish self-help and shared many ideas.
I don't know if you've noticed this, but it always talks about these things that they're trying to get the desired result. And every time, you know, there's a rabbi that says, oh no, you got to have practical application. So everything that they do and they apply practically is never enough. And then they got to do something else and something else. And well, one of those something else's includes clearing out Gaza, obviously.
That would later be applied by the Zionist movement. Okay, so there were plenty of small migrations and movements to return to Israel. But how did these give way to the organized mass movement of Jews from around the world returning to the land that we know today as Zionism? Well, a large part of what fueled such organization was the idea of Jewish emancipation that emerged from the Enlightenment in the 18th century, combined with the new 19th century.
There you go, mermaid. I'd probably done exactly the same thing. Just walk away. You never know. Your bottle of shampoo might explode while you're in the shower.
Concept of nation states. Added to the mix was the intensifying persecution of Jews in Europe. In 1882, a pamphlet called Auto-Emancipation, Warning to His Kinsmen,
You may be right, Nosy.
from a Russian Jew, was published by a physician named Leon Pinsker. Pinsker came to the novel conclusion that hatred of Jews, what he termed Judeophobia, wouldn't be overcome by a change in Jews' political status in their host countries or even by equal rights. Instead, he argued for a new approach, the establishment of a sovereign political Jewish state. He then found
You see, every step takes another practical application or another step. You know, now they got to have their own sovereign state. They can't just be there and live there. So it's just like, and that's the way it always is with them. It's always something else. Now it includes the rebuilding of the third temple and sacrificing these heifers and stuff.
Founded an organization called Chovevei Sion, or Lovers of Zion, which began to facilitate the emigration of Jews to the land of Israel. This was the birth of a practical or political Zionism that aimed towards the eventual creation of an independent nation state for Jews. And when Rabbi Samuel Mohilever and his disciple Rabbi Yitzchak Yaakov Reines became leaders of Chovevei Zion and its religious offshoot, the Mizrahi movement, it marked the beginning of religious Zionism as a movement and its early partnership with political Zionism. But these weren't the only Zionist ideas in development. Another Zionist movement began to emerge in 1888 with the circulation of an essay called Lo Zu Haderech.
Yeah, Nosy, as far as I know, they are there. Matter of fact, I think they had a test run a year or so ago.
Or, this is not...
There was somebody on Timcast that had like a little bag or a bottle of supposedly what was the ashes of that red heifer.
The way. It laid out a harsh critique of practical Zionism and was written by Ahad Ha'am, the founder of what would come to be known as cultural Zionism. Ahad Ha'am had been influenced by Pinsker's pamphlet and ideas and was a member of Chovevei Zion. But he was critical of the feasibility of practice.
Well, you know, look, Susan, it's a total twisting and misrepresentation and maybe a little misunderstanding of the scriptures. You know, and you get a lot of these Christian Zionists, these evangelicals, that take all this stuff so literal and they put so much stock in it, like about the red heifers and stuff. And they get so excited, you know, and talk about the great things that are to come. And finally, you know, Jesus, the Messiah. No. Like, I mean, none of that means anything anymore. I mean, that's the old law. That's the old covenant. That's the way, you know, Jesus came and was the ultimate sacrifice. We don't have to sacrifice red heifers. We don't have to sacrifice lambs. We don't have to do this anymore. And so the fact that they're putting all this importance into this is just asinine. It's bullshit.
Practical Zionism and the massive immigration that it envisioned, let alone the large-scale establishment of a nation state. Instead, Ahad Ha'am proposed the gradual establishment of
That's right, Nosy.
a Jewish cultural renaissance that would unite Jews across the world with its spiritual center in Israel. Two of its central goals would be a revival of Hebrew language.
And what are they going to have to do to get that? Well, they're going to have to get rid of all the old Muslim people.
And Jewish literacy. But there were yet other strands of Zionism developing during the same period. Socialist and labor Zionist movements, inspired by Marxist ideals, aimed to work the land in order to create a socialist communal model.
Yep. And I hate to say it, but you know, that was the roots of communism. And if you look into it, you got to dig pretty deep. But you know, the Bolsheviks and all that happened in Russia, that was them too.
Model of society. In time, these efforts would eventually lead to the early kibbutz movement. But then how did all of these different movements eventually come together? Well, this is where a Jewish Austrian journalist named Theodor Herzl finally comes in.
Oh, Herzl.
Just 5 years after Pinsker's death, Herzl published his book, Der Judenstaat, or The Jewish State, in 1896. This changed everything. Not necessarily because Herzl's ideas were so new. In fact, they were very similar to Pinsker's.
Everything.
But mainly because the timing was so perfect. There had been so many Zionist developments that the stage was now set for Herzl's vision. And so, when Herzl convened the first Zionist Congress, Pinsker's Chovevei Zion was absorbed into Herzl's new Zionist organization. But disagreements remained. Ahad Ha'am, as before, opposed what he now referred to as Westernized Zionism. He saw Herzl's Zionism as devoid of Judaism and as an abandonment of Hebrew language and Jewish culture in preference of a purely westernized state. He considered Herzl's vision of mass immigration and a nation state to be wishful thinking. He also objected to the Zionist movement's general dismissal of the Arab population already living in the land. Herzl died.
Exactly. Got to do something with that Arab population. They can't be having all them.
In 1904, and so he didn't witness the most significant development towards his vision, which came 13 years later when the Balfour Declaration was issued in 1917. This was a statement by the British government that supported the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. It was a hard-won result.
Did you notice where they said that national state of Israel was going to be parked? Oh, but some people say that there is no Palestine. Palestine's not a country. Palestine hasn't been a country. Those people didn't have a country that they're, being taken from them. No, it's always been Israel.
Of more than a decade of effort by Zionist leader Dr. Chaim Weizmann. Weizmann's mentor, none other than Achad Ha'am, advised him during the Balfour negotiations. Ultimately, Achad Ha'am's cultural Zionism merged with Herzl's political Zionism once it was clear that not only was a Jewish state feasible, but that a large immigrant population and Jewish culture were already flourishing in the land. So, do we think there's just one idea that defines Zionism?
At the cost of all the poor Arabs that were there.
Or that Zionism is the same for everyone? Whatever one's flavor of Zionism, be it political, religious, cultural, social, or other,
and that's why you get 1,000 different answers when you ask what Zionism is.
Unique advancements for the Jewish people that have come with the State of Israel demonstrate how self-determination fulfills not merely a single expression of Zionism, but a Zionism that can cover the entire spectrum of Jewish life. Zionism is not just about the successful return to Jewish sovereignty that was central to political Zionism, or the spirituality and national redemption that was a concern of religious Zionism, or the establishment of a socialist community dedicated to radical equality that was an ideal of social Zionism, or even the revitalization of an ancient language, literacy, and culture that was the ambition of cultural Zionism. Zionism is all of these things, and much more. It is an acknowledgement of the unique role of the State of Israel in establishing a thriving modern Jewish civilization as the embodiment of the Jewish people.
No, Palestine is isn't part of. That's Persia. Iran is what used to be Persia. Palestine is, well, the area surrounding and exactly where Israel sits right now. That was Palestine, and it was actually all controlled by the British. I don't remember when. Of course, there's a big, huge history there. When the Persians lost control over all that. I can't remember who they lost control to. Either way, the British ended up having control over that, and they're the ones that basically created the state of Israel there and left all that around it to the Palestinians. And, of course, Israel has been slowly, trying to take all that over.
Connection to their ancient homeland that is rooted in history and dedicated to the future. Thanks for watching.
It's all good. It's a lot of
See you guys next week.
All right. We'll call it quits on the Zionism for now. Let's watch it. Let's watch something on AIPAC. Let's get an introduction to AIPAC.
The lobby that never loses. How AIPAC built political power in America. You don't need to control a government to shape what it does. You just need access, consistency, and a system that rewards influence. Because in Washington, power doesn't always look like force. Most of the time, it looks like relationships. And if you want to understand how influence actually works in American politics, how decisions get
Nosy, as a lot of people are, because it's not, well, you know what? I mean, some people just naturally are interested in that type of thing, but there's a lot of people that know more about the Middle East than they ever did or ever thought they would. And why is that? Well, when you get this little bitty country the size of the state of New Jersey that seems to run every single aspect of our government, and has all this power, and besides always dragging us into these never-ending wars, people get a little more curious, want to know a little more about what's going on over there. So, and it's no different with me. I mean, I've looked more and more into the Middle East over the past few years, and that's exactly why. That is the one and only reason why. Like I said, people never gave that part of the world a second thought, but now things are changing, and people are fed up with the way things have been going.
Nudged, reinforced, and quietly aligned.
A red heifer, it's something out of the Bible, out of the Old Testament. They were supposed to sacrifice a red heifer, and I can't remember exactly what that was for. Each of the different sacrifices were for something different, but it's not just a red cow. I mean, it has to be a red heifer, but it had to be a pure red heifer. So basically, they claim that these red heifers they have in Israel now, I think they were raised over in Texas or somewhere. But anyway, supposedly they do not have one single white hair on their whole entire body. I find that hard to believe, but that's what it said. But back in the Bible, it did require the sacrifice of what it called a pure red heifer. So.
Over time, you don't start with conspiracy theories. You start with lobbying. And one of the most studied, most debated, and most consistently influential lobbying organizations in the United States is AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Not because it controls the system, but because it understands it and plays it better than almost anyone else.
Yeah, that's another way of saying it controls it, just saying.
To understand AIPAC, you first have to understand the environment it operates in. Washington, D.C. isn't just a seat of government. It's an ecosystem. Elected officials need funding.
Yep, revelation in the Bible, Miss Susan.
They need information. They need relationships. And most importantly, they need to get reelected. That's where lobbying groups come in. Organizations like the National Rifle Association, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, labor unions, tech companies, pharmaceutical firms, all of them operate inside the same basic structure. They advocate.
So, Nosy, I mean, and everybody's got their own thoughts of it, and I could definitely be wrong. Yes, there are, the red heifers are a biblical thing. I mean, there was a particular sacrifice where it required a pure red heifer. But all of the sacrifices and all the old things that had to be done for these people to all these things that God required, he stopped requiring when Jesus came and was the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, we don't have to sacrifice the lambs and the pure red heifers and all that anymore. So basically, at least the way I feel about it, is that, yes, even though the Bible speaks of these red heifers, and it was at one time required, now it's meaningless. I mean, and they can get the purest red heifers they want, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's meaningless. Now, do people that believe in it, as in like the Zionists and the crazies over there in Philadelphia, can they take those and use them to do some messed up stuff with? Yeah, probably so. But I feel like actually, technically, spiritually, they're really meaningless.
They fundraise. They provide access. They shape priorities. AIPAC operates in that same system. But what makes it different is how focused and how consistent it has been for decades. AIPAC's core mission is straightforward: strengthen the relationship between the United States and Israel. That's it. But the way it pursues that goal is where things get interesting.
They're getting all the gimme-dats they can for the state of Israel.
Because AIPAC doesn't function like a traditional corporation. And it doesn't operate like a grassroots activist group either. It sits somewhere in between. Highly organized, politically sophisticated, and deeply embedded in the rhythms of Washington. One of AIPAC's biggest advantages is that it doesn't rely on a single.
I'll have to go back and look at that again, Nosy, because I can't remember. I do know that they were mentioned in the Old Testament, but now they may be in some of the prophecies, like in Revelation, what have you. I can't remember. I do know that, like I said, they were back in the, they were one of the required sacrifices back in the Old Testament. But again, I could very well be wrong. They may be in the book of Revelation. I don't know. I'll have to look into the red heifers again.
Election cycle. It plays the long game. While public attention shifts every few months, new scandals, new headlines, new crises, AIPAC focuses on continuity, relationships with lawmakers, staffers,
relationships is one way to put it.
policy advisors. Year after year, administration
Stanley, what's up? What's up?
after administration. Because influence compounds. And over time, that consistency matters more than any single moment. Another key piece of the puzzle is information. Members of Congress are not experts on every issue they vote on.
Well, that's the understatement of the damn year. I don't think those assholes are experts in anything.
They rely on
especially the shit they vote on.
Briefings, policy papers, advisors, lobby.
And that's the bad part about it. You know, AIPAC, they support all these different people. I feel like they support the dumbest ones they can find, because when they do, these people don't know shit about shit, and then they can just go in there and say, oh, hey, this is a good thing, trust me. And you know what? Even if you don't believe me and think it's a good thing, just remember, we'll pay to have you primaried next go around.
Lobbying organizations help fill that gap. They frame issues. They
frame issues.
provide context.
Context.
They suggest priorities, not by forcing decisions, but by shaping how those decisions are understood.
Okay, so they're definitely giving this a very positive twist, at least as positive as can be given. When you fund the opponents, I mean, to the tune of millions of dollars, when they primary these people, if they don't vote the way they want them to vote, that's more than just a suggestion. So there's that.
And when an organization becomes a trusted source of information, its influence naturally grows. But information alone isn't enough.
Yep, literal female cow is mermaid.
Because politics runs on something else too. Money. Campaigns are expensive. And while AIPAC itself does not donate directly to candidates, it operates within a broader network of donors and political action committees that support candidates aligned with its policy goals. That ecosystem matters. Because in American politics, support isn't just about ideology, it's about viability. Candidates who can raise money are more likely to win. And candidates who win are the ones.
Right, but you can take some asshole that can't raise any money and they can just sponge it right off of AIPAC, and guess what? They get in there. It don't matter whether they can raise money or not. If AIPAC's giving it to them, then why do they need to be able to raise money?
Making decisions. Then there's access. AIPAC is known for maintaining strong relationships across both major political.
No, mermaid, they got to burn it. It's a burnt offering. It's a sacrifice. They kill it, and then they got to burn it on the altar.
Parties. That's not accidental. It's strategic. Because influence in Washington isn't about winning.
Okay, I can see we need to do a show on the third temple and the red heifers and all that. We'll okay, there. I'll write that down in my little book. That one will be incoming. Okay.
One side. It's about being relevant to both. When an issue becomes bipartisan, it becomes durable. And durability is power. Every year, AIPAC hosts large policy conferences that bring together lawmakers, donors, and policy experts.
And they also fund those, you know, those fancy little all expensive paid trips to go kiss the wall too, you know, especially for rookie congressmen.
These events aren't just symbolic. They're functional. They reinforce networks. They align messaging. They signal priorities. And they remind everyone involved that this isn't a one-off effort. It's an ongoing system. Critics of AIPAC.
Now, that firstborn thing, if you'll remember, that was back when they were in Egypt, and God had said for Pharaoh to let his people go, and he wouldn't let them go, and so that's what the Passover was. They had to take the blood and put over the top of their door to show that they were, God's people, and that anybody that didn't have that mark, an angel came through there and killed everybody else's firstborn sons, including Pharaoh's. Pretty crazy stories.
AIPAC argue that its influence is too strong, that it shapes U.S. foreign policy in ways that don't always reflect broader public opinion. Supporters argue the opposite, that it represents a legitimate policy position, one shared by many Americans and policymakers, and operates fully within the democratic process. Both perspectives exist, and both are part of the broader conversation about lobbying.
Fully within the democratic process. Nobody's saying they're not voting on these issues, but the whole question is who do these issues benefit?
Being in America. Because the real story here isn't just about AIPAC. It's about the system that allows organizations like it to exist and thrive. A system where influence is legal, structured, and in many ways expected.
Yeah, well,
influence
that
organizations like it to.
Pause wasn't working. I don't think that influence should be legal. And like I said, if they are going to influence like that, they should have to do it under FARA. That way, at least they got to register as an agent for a foreign country.
Exist and thrive. A system where influence is legal, structured, and in many ways expected. Where policy is shaped not just by votes, but by relationships, information, and sustained advocacy. And once you see that system clearly, something shifts. You stop looking for a single group in control, and you start seeing a network. Different interests, different priorities, all competing, all influencing. Sometimes.
Yes, exactly. Nosy Google. That's why they need that third temple. They have to build that third temple. And then, of course, that's where they would sacrifice those heifers.
Aligning, sometimes clashing, but always present. So the question isn't whether AIPAC has influence. It does. The real question is, how does influence work in a system where everyone is trying to shape outcomes? And what happens when some groups become better at it than others? Because AIPAC
you gotta kick them the fuck out.
Isn't powerful because it's hidden. It's powerful because it's effective. Because it understands the incentives. Because it invests in relationships. Because it stays consistent while everything else changes. And once you understand that, you start to see similar patterns everywhere. In healthcare, in tech, in energy, in finance. Different players, same game. No one announces control. No one flips a switch. Instead, influence builds quietly, over years, over decades, until one day it doesn't feel like influence anymore. It just feels like the way things are. And that's the real mechanism behind power in modern systems.
Sandland.
Not domination, not conspiracy, but alignment. Persistent, structured, and almost invisible if you're not looking for it. If you want to understand.
Yeah, I know, Dan. Look, I try to be a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Objective. I like to look at things from both points of view. This is about as puff piece as you can get on AIPAC. This is about as positive as it gets. But if you'll notice, it still sounds pretty freaking scary. And again, that's why I like to kind of show both sides of it. This is basically a pro AIPAC type thing. And at the end of the day, I don't care how much they sugarcoat it. If you're paying attention to what they're saying, that's some scary shit.
Who shapes decisions? Don't just ask who's in charge.
They're trying, Mermaid, but I mean, there's no spin in that too positive.
Ask who shows up every time.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna watch one more. We'll watch. We'll get a little bit of the other side of AIPAC. Let's see. There was one that I saw earlier that was pretty good. Let's see. I think this
Welcome
is
to Social Civics, the channel where we break down the ideas, systems, and institutions that shape our civic life. Today, we're going to talk about AIPAC. Now, this is a name you've probably heard thrown around in the news or in political discussions, but what it is and how it works isn't always super clear. So our goal here today is simple:
That's right, Angela.
to understand it. So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll start with the basics. What even is AIPAC? Then we'll get into its mission.
No, this is not the one I was looking for. We'll watch this one, but I don't.
What exactly is Zionism?
Sorry, but this is not the one I was trying to. 1 second here.
What is the American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee, and why does it play such a powerful role in American politics? Today, I'm breaking down the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, explaining why it exists, what it does, who it benefits, and how it shaped U.S. elections. Let's start with the basics. American-Israel Public Affairs Committee was founded in 1954 by Isaiah L. Kennan, a former lobbyist for the Israeli government. Its creation was partly a response to negative international reactions to Israeli military actions at the time. The goal? To strengthen the relationship between the United States and Israel, and to ensure Israel's interests were well represented in Washington. American-Israel Public Affairs Committee is one of the most influential lobbying organizations in the United States. Here's what it does. Lobbying. American-Israel Public Affairs Committee regularly meets with members of Congress and the executive branch to advocate for policies that support Israel, including military aid and strategic cooperation. Since 2021, American-Israel Public Affairs Committee has operated its own Political Action Committee and Super PAC, spending millions to support pro-Israel candidates and influence key races. The group hosts major conferences and events, bringing...
In other words, the ones that are going to be pro-Philadelphia and bend over backwards to kiss the Philadelphian butt, they fund and they throw money at. And then the ones that they're not, they take and throw that money another direction and get them primaried out of there so they don't even have a chance.
Together lawmakers from both parties to discuss U.S.-Israel relations. Its annual policy conference is attended by more members of Congress than almost any other event
AIPAC for dummies, that's funny.
outside a State of the Union address. American-Israel Public Affairs Committee endorses candidates based on their support for a strong U.S.-Israel relationship regardless of party. American-Israel Public Affairs Committee's primary beneficiary is the...
It may be, Miss Susan. AI may be the downfall, but I tell you what, I'm going to try to get as much use out of it as I can in the meantime. It is handy for a lot of things. I'm not saying I'm a pro AI guy, but like I use it to make all my thumbnails. I generally, it take me a few minutes to make a thumbnail. Speaking of thumbnails, what'd y'all think about my thumbnail for tonight? What about that, or did y'all pay any attention to it? I was pretty proud of that, and I didn't completely design that myself. I did get AI to do it, but you have to be very specific. After a while, you start learning how to tell it what to make, and that's the trick to making better and better thumbnails.
State of Israel. The organization's lobbying has helped secure billions in U.S. aid for Israel, making it the largest cumulative recipient of American foreign assistance since World War II.
Oh, but we don't give them anything. No, we just give them a few weapons. That's it.
American-Israel
Thank you, Mermaid.
Public Affairs Committee also benefits U.S. politicians who align with its views, providing them with financial and political support. But American-Israel Public Affairs Committee's influence isn't without controversy. Critics argue that it prioritizes Israeli interests over American ones, and that
It definitely does.
its power can sway U.S. policy in ways that don't always align with broader American public opinion.
Yeah, like 99% of the time.
American-Israel Public Affairs Committee's impact on elections is significant and growing. In the 2024 election cycle alone, American-Israel Public Affairs Committee supported 361 pro-Israel Democratic
Thank you, Angela.
and Republican candidates, contributing over $53 million in direct support.
Thank you, Mermaid. Hey, that's thanks to Allie Top Files. Actually, she made that little intro video for hers with the flamingo, and I was like, that's cool. How'd you do that? And she said, I can make you something if you tell me what you want. So I get through her an idea, and she sent that over to me. So shout out to Miss Allie Top Files. Hey, and if any of y'all did not see me and her live the other night, y'all ought to go check that out. I guess now's as good a time as any. I know everybody in the chats is subscribed, so, but anybody else that sees this, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. And Miss Susan has told everybody to like it, but I'm going to remind everybody again. So yeah, all that good stuff. Share. I don't care if you just grab links and pop them on Facebook and hit share, X, whatever. The more you put it out there, the more it helps out the channel.
The organization has helped elect hundreds of lawmakers from both parties. In total, American-Israel Public Affairs Committee-backed candidates won 318 races in the most recent U.S. elections, strengthening the pro-Israel presence in Congress.
Imagine that.
American-Israel Public Affairs Committee's endorsements often go to both Democrats and Republicans, including some of the most vulnerable Senate incumbents and influential House members. American-Israel Public Affairs Committee is a powerful force in American politics, shaping policy and elections in support of a strong
Out of here, Rick.
U.S.-Israel relationship. Whether you see it as a vital advocate or a controversial influence, its impact on Washington is undeniable. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what political topics you want me to cover next.
Yeah, I know, Nosy. I apologize about that. Finally figured out what it was, though. It was, so my kid, my 15-year-old, he had like 3 buddies staying the night with him. And where I'm set up is in here in my game room. And I came in here and I had to fix everything. They had my camera knocked sideways and had my microphone not knocked over, but out of whack. And anyway, I guess something had gotten unplugged. So yeah, I didn't realize he was there either. I'm glad you showed up though, Rick, either way. Yeah, I didn't think it was too funny when nobody could hear me. I didn't realize just how bad it was until I tried, Susan. I didn't realize how bad it was till I went back and listened to it, and y'all weren't shitting like you. I could almost not hear myself at all. It was crazy. All right. Well, I tell you what. I think we've gone through enough tonight. I've got a few more. We'll probably watch a few more. I've got some better ones. Like I said, I've got a good documentary on this that goes into a lot of detail. So I don't know. I think it's important. I think it's more important than it's ever been. Obviously, all this influencing and all this has been going on for years and years and years, longer than I've been alive. But people are finally starting to realize the extent that it has been, and they're tired of it. Yeah, probably Mermaid. But yeah, and people are tired of it. This younger generation, especially, they ain't having it. They don't care. Screw Philly. they say. So, yeah, things are definitely shifting. They're going to shift even more. And play a quick random Jubilee video to cheer us up. I tell you what, if you'll pick one out, I'm getting tired. If you'll pick one out and email it to me, we'll open with a Jubilee. How about that? It's about time for me to crash. But I'd be happy to play one though. So you get me one picked out, you email it to me, and then we'll start with that. Okay, we'll start tomorrow night with one. All right, sounds good, Mermaid. But anyway, yeah. So we're gonna have to start looking at politics a lot differently than the way we've looked at it before. And I tell you what, it would be really good for these politicians to go ahead and realize that now. Some of them probably have to learn the hard way, but oh, you like that, Susan? It's pretty good stuff. It's like it's like one conservative versus like 20 liberals. They all take turns running up and debating, or like one conservative and 20 gay people, or it's pretty funny. It's interesting to watch. Yeah, Charlie was on the Jubilee. Yep. You'll see. Mermaid's gonna send me one. We're gonna start out with it tomorrow. So anyway, all right. Well, you guys, I went longer than I meant to, but what can I say? I talk a lot. I hope everybody learned at least some kind of little interest in something they didn't know. And OnlyFans girls. Yeah, they probably did. Yes, ma'am, I sure will. I will sleep tight, and everybody else, y'all do the same. Thank y'all for showing up, being here. Again, I'll say it. It's a real good feeling when I come in here to hit the go live button, and y'all are already in there talking, cutting up, having a good time. The girly videos. Well, I told you we'd start out with one. You pick it out, so it don't matter how girly it is. You send it, we'll start with it. Don't let the bed bugs bite. I'm gonna try. All right, guys. Again, like, subscribe, share. Y'all know the routine. Miss Susan was all over those likes. Yes, if anybody can and feels the urge to, my 3 links are in the YouTube video description. I put them there ahead of time, but I've got my PayPal, my Venmo, and my Cash App. But of course, the most important thing is y'all showing up here every time. I really appreciate it. Enjoy it. All right. Well, good night, hall monitor. Y'all have a good rest of what's left of the night. And yeah, we'll meet back here hopefully tomorrow night, okay? Thank y'all.